Go around and climb hard, climb right turn, please.
Right turn.
Breakout 4897, maintain 1000, please.
Maintain 1000, traffic is tight, breakout 4897.
Thank you very much, left turn, hard left turn.
Having a controller tell a pilot to climb hard or turn a direction without giving them a heading is something I've never heard in all my years of flying. So it's interesting to see how this controller got themselves into this jam. And if you saw my Hollywood versus Reality on 2/22, you may remember this scene here.
What are you doing?
Kennedy Tower, are we still clear to land?
And the audio in this video is actually a real-life example of something exactly like this happening. The only difference is one key part from that movie doesn't exist in the real audio. That's this part right here.
SA 841, clear to land. Clear to land. GA 950, punch it.
You're gonna see what I mean once we get into this video. Let's check it out.
Terribly shape for the 610, RNAV 35.
3610, so it's out on 351050 clear to land.
35 clear to land for shape for the 610.
Breakout 4897, on 9 left, line up away.
9 left, line of way, breakout 4897.
Traffic on a 4-mile final 35, additional traffic crossing downfield. Breakout 4897, on 9 left, heading of 080, clear for takeoff.
Heading is 080, running 9 left, clear for takeoff, breakout 4897.
I've flown into Philadelphia a few times, but it's not an airport I'm super familiar with. So if I'm in the shoes of the pilots that are flying this RNAV on the runway 35, their call sign's Blue Streak, I really wouldn't have been concerned with another plane getting lined up on runway 9 or left, because it's not an airport that I'm super familiar with. But here's the clearance that the Blue Streak plane originally got given.
Blue Streak 5610, so it's out on 351050 clear to land.
The controller was giving them a clearance to land on runway 35, and the pilots were letting them know they're on the RNAV. Now, an RNAV isn't something that I've talked about often, but there's a few different ways that we can land, and one of the ways is it has a system on the field. It's called an instrument landing system. That's one that you are really familiar with. A lot of times you'll hear ILS. So that's instrument landing system. It's pretty common. This is an RNAV, and this particular RNAV is using GPS in order to land. It's not something I talked about, so let me just quickly go over this. This is an RNAV approach. It's very similar in a lot of ways to any of the normal ones. You see here, there's a normal descent path. The biggest difference is you're gonna see right here. These are the landing minimums on this RNAV approach. You can see right here, it's 487 feet, which is a lot higher than your typical instrument landing system, which will get you about 200 feet over the runway. This is just an increased safety margin because, again, this is using a GPS system. So as things get more and more advanced and more precise, that number will probably go down over time. But right now it's letting them level off or break out of the clouds about 500 feet over the runway. So there's still plenty of time and plenty of distance for them to solve something if there's a problem as soon as they get out of the clouds. So I'm just explaining here that they're on an RNAV. It's a little bit different. You might be thinking, well, maybe the pilots were confused or focused on that, but an RNAV approach is something that's really normal. We do it all the time. It's not as common as an ILS approach, but it's normal and it's not really a big deal, so it wouldn't really draw their attention away. So hearing a clearance like this,
Breakout 4897, on 9 left, line up away.
9 left, line of way, breakout 4897.
again, wouldn't really draw my attention because it's very common when you have intersecting runways and you're coming into land, another plane is going to get set up and lined up on a runway. So as soon as you clear that runway, they can take them off. And it just is to speed up the pace. And it happens a lot at really busy airports. It's a totally normal thing that you would see or hear. Let's say if you're going into LaGuardia, JFK, a lot of busy airports will do this. It's not a big deal. Now this is a chart of Philadelphia, and this is where situational awareness becomes super important. This is runway 35. This is the runway the pilots are going to be landing on with their RNAV approach. And this is 9 or left, where the Brickyard plane was originally told to line up and wait. But then the controller says this.
Breakout 4897, runway 9 left, heading of 080, clear for takeoff.
So you have these pilots cleared to land on this runway 35, and you have these pilots cleared to take off on runway 9 or left. Now again, these are conflicting numbers, and you might say, oh, I would never have a mistake like that happen to me. But let's say a controller told somebody they were cleared to take off from runway 8. Almost the same number, but you see they're not even touching runways. So it wouldn't have been an issue. Now I should mention, typically you're not going to have a plane cleared for takeoff where the back of its jets would be facing the area you're going to be landing on because of the jet blast. We have it happen in Anchorage a lot. There's a takeoff, we're going to be taking off, and planes will be landing exactly perpendicular to that runway. They'll make sure that that traffic is clear before you put all the power to it, because as you're landing, you don't want to have a massive gust of wind that you're not expecting blow your wing up. I had it happen to me once. I don't remember where I was, but I remember thinking like, where did that come from? And that's where it came from, and I wasn't expecting it. So It's not something that you're typically going to see where a plane's cleared to take off runway 8 just as another plane is landing on runway 35. But I was using as an example, just because there's a conflicting runway or something that's going to be perpendicular like that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, red flag, unless you really understand the layout of that airport. For example, I land here a lot into Miami and we land on runway 9. If I was cleared to land on runway 9 and I heard someone was cleared to take off on runway 12, that would put up a red flag for me. But that's because I really know that airport and I go in and out of there all the time. So that's the setup of how this all got started. Listen what happens next.
Runway 35. Blue Streak 5610, go around.
Go around 5610.
Go around and climb hard, climb right turn, please.
Right turn.
We got 4897, maintain 1000, please.
Maintain 1000, traffic is breaker 4897.
Thank you very much, left turn, hard left turn.
It's a turn now, breaker 4897.
Okay. Blue Streak, turn the plane.
What's turning?
You gotta get turning at each other. Brickyard, make a right turn for me, dude. Right turn.
We're breaking right, breaker 4897. Where the traffic say?
Brickyard 4897, that's all my fault there, not yours. Climb and maintain 5,000 feet.
Left turn 00 up to 5,000, breaker 4897.
Blue Streak 5610, maintain 3,000. Turn back left heading of 270.
3,000 left turn 270, Blue Streak 5610.
Blue Streak 5610 to maintain 3,000 feet. Let's go heading up 275 and contact approach 124.35. Bring you right back in. Sorry about that.
275, 2435, 5610.
Break up 4097, contact departure 124.35.
2435, break up 4097.
That is a lot more commotion than either of those pilots or the controller probably wanted to be having going on in their life at that particular moment. You could hear the amount of change and commotion, heading directions, and everything that was going on. It's a lot. Now, we have something on our planes called TCAS. It's a traffic collision avoidance system. That's something that when the controller messes up and we're flying, if we're on the same altitude, our planes will talk to each other and they will say, hey, plane, you're at the same altitude as me and we're headed the same direction. And the planes will tell one plane to climb and one plane to descend. That control from the traffic collision avoidance system, we call it TCAS, that is going to override anything the controller says, because if the controller makes a mistake, the planes are going to talk to each other and the pilots are going to see outside. One plane's climbing, we're getting told to descend, so you would descend, and then it will give you how fast you need to descend, or if you only need to descend a little bit, or maybe you need to maintain that current altitude that you're at. It'll give you all those different instructions that you need to do. Now, I have never heard something like this, which is what it sounds like is a TCAS system with air traffic control. Listen what here happens when these two planes are getting ready to collide. You can hear it in the background as soon as the controller starts talking. Listen to this.
Runway 35. Blue Streak 5610, go around.
You can hear that saying 35 and 9 are left. It's telling that controller there's something bad that's going to happen. I'm guessing there was some type of alert before that happened. Like when we hear it, we'll hear traffic, climb, or we'll hear different commands that will come from our system. I'm guessing there was something else that was said before that, or they notice it right at the exact same point. Either way, it's set up because this controller is not the first person to ever make this mistake. It's happened before, and it will probably happen again. But it's set up there to alert them in case of this exact situation. Would it have been fine? I don't know. I don't know how close these planes were, but it's possible that they would have not even touched. But you're not going to want to guess and hope that it's going to work out like you saw in that 222 movie. Some airports even have a lighting system in place, so when you're getting ready to take off, if there's another plane in the way, it looks red like this. Normally, you would see it look like this, where there's just normal lighting down the middle, and side by side, you can see it's a big difference to know, hey, this means stop. Even if you were starting your takeoff roll, you would want to stop because another plane is going to be crossing your path either on the taxiway or on approach of an intersecting runway. Of course, if you're moving down the runway and air traffic control is probably going to have a sensor that's going to say something like this, that this plane's moving and that plane's landing or whatever, to give them an alert, so they will be saying something, but those red lights are also there. So there's a lot of safety protocols that are put in place because, to be honest, people are human. People are human. People are not aliens, people are human. So if you were doing a takeoff roll and all of a sudden all those lights turned red, it would tell you this is a problem and you would abort your takeoff roll because there could be someone crossing down the field on the middle of the taxiway. A lot of times it's when there's low visibility, so you don't have a situation where two planes hit each other during takeoff, or there's been accidents like that that have happened way in the past. So they have all these different protocols, different things. Now these lighting systems, I can only imagine how expensive they are, but obviously even if it saved just a couple lives, it's totally worth it. So they have these runway lights there in the middle that turn red. You know not to go. Obviously, Philadelphia, I guess, didn't have it at this time, or maybe doesn't have it. I don't know. But either way, there's a lot of different stuff that's set up. So you had the air traffic control version of TCAS screaming at them, and in a lot of airports, you'll have that and the red lights. And then once the planes get up in the air, then the pilots have the TCAS system to keep away from each other in case the controller messes up, because he was turning them left and turning them right and turning one left and right. There was a lot going on. So if he were to mess up again and turn them on a collision course, even though he had one climbing above 1,000 feet and one he held at 1,000 feet, even though all that was happening, even if he had messed up, now that the planes are in the air, one of the planes is going to tell the pilots, climb. One of them is probably going to get told to maintain their altitude, because at 1,000 feet there's not a lot to go down. So they're going to get something like that to keep the planes away from each other in case this controller made another major mistake like this. Listen here to when the controller tells them to turn right but doesn't give them a heading.
Go around and climb hard, climb right turn, please.
Right turn.
These pilots have a lot going on. I just did a go around a couple weeks ago. I messed it all up, to be honest with you, and I knew it was coming. I knew probably 90 seconds before it happened there was no way the landing was going to work out, because the way the controllers had stacked this in there. I knew right then this is going to be a go-around, and I still messed it up. So these pilots aren't planning to do a go-around. It's not something, I mean, you're always planning for it, the hypothetical situation that happens, but it's not something that happens. When you're doing, let's say, 100 landings in a month, which these regional pilots are probably easily doing, you're doing 100 landings and you're rarely doing a go-around. You might do 2 in a year, maybe 1, maybe none. So it's not something that you're doing except in training, and in training it's something that you're planning for, because there's always something breaking or going wrong. So I knew this was happening. I saw it 90 seconds out. I even said to the other pilot, there's no way this is going to work. We're going to end up doing a go-around. Even knowing that 90 seconds in advance, I still messed it up. I even forgot to throw the gear up. We did all the things that were wrong. Nothing that was dangerous, but it was just slow and sloppy, and it's just because it's not something that we do all the time. I ended up initially thinking the controller said to turn to the left, and I ended up turning to the left, but he had actually said to turn to the right. Wasn't a big deal. We turned back to the right. Nobody was in any danger. It was just sloppy, really, and that was not knowing that was going to happen. These pilots, they're doing a great job. I can't see exactly what's going on in the flight deck, but I can assure you, in both flight decks, there is a lot going on. People are looking for the other traffic. There's a very high workload, and a lot of these pilots don't have certain levels of automation. Like on my plane, when we get told to do a go-around, I push one button, the auto throttles zoom up, and they go to a set place. On the Blue Streak plane, for a fact, I know they don't have that feature, so they have to manually push their throttles up. Not a big deal, but it's just one more additional step that my plane has and that their plane doesn't have. It's a lot going on, and they sound like they're doing a great job handling it and keeping visual contact. You heard the Brickyard pilot say, we got the other traffic in sight right here.
Well, breaking right, breaking 4097, we have the traffic in sight.
Now that doesn't really help the controller, because the controller still needs to get both planes separated from each other, but by one pilot being able to see, because they're lower, being able to see up and see that other plane, that gives some reassurance to the other plane that they're not going to be hitting each other. He goes, okay, well, he's got me in sight, so he will stay away from me. And so that's why he's saying that. It's a normal thing that's going on. You get that clearance a lot, maintain visual separation. You've heard me talk about it in the past. So that pilot is seeing that other plane saying, hey, I see them, but the controller doesn't really care. He needs to get these planes, they have their parameters of how far they need to be separated by, and he's really working fast to get them separated so they're not having the conflict on their screen, and so he can get them sequenced back up to come around and land. In my scenario, when we came in, we were low on fuel, and that was actually one of the things that drew my attention away. We had plenty of gas, but during the go-around, I looked at the fuel, and we only had, the way we were pitched up, I think it read like 8 tons. Now, 8 tons of gas is probably more than these planes have at any given time, but for us, that's not really a lot. So when I looked up, I saw 8 tons, and I thought, okay, so in my head, I started thinking, okay, how much time do I have minutes-wise in case we need to go around? Because it was really busy when we were coming into land. Now, I should have been focused on flying the plane, but that was one of the things that caught my attention. Once the plane kind of leveled off, we had more than that, but it became a concern, something that we had to think about. Once we got leveled off, we ended up grabbing the weather for a different alternate airport nearby in case we got jammed up again. We talked about, hey, we may need to declare minimum fuel, because one go-around isn't a lot of fuel, but if they push you out because there's a lot of traffic in one of these busy airports, now you have a problem. So now you have to declare a minimum fuel situation. So these pilots weren't doing that. They were maintaining everything. They were doing a great job, and the controller really was doing a great job. Once he messed everything up, he was really doing a great job to get everything separated. And the one thing that I like that he did, which is really important in this situation, is that he told the other pilots, hey, this was on me. That's what he says right here.
So I got 4897, that's all my fault there, not yours?
Now the reason that's important is because most of the time when there's a mess up like this, it's the pilot's fault. We typically mess things up more to ourselves than something else that's going on. So by the controller saying, hey, this was my fault, you guys didn't do anything, because those Brickyard pilots, now they're just starting their flight. So they're gonna obviously be talking about this the whole flight over until they land, and then as soon as the door opens up and the passengers are off, they're gonna be telling the flight attendant like, dude, you are not gonna believe what happened when we took off. Because the flight attendants are gonna realize, why do we stop very low to the ground, 1,000 feet? You wouldn't normally feel the plane level off like that. And the pilots probably it was probably an abrupt level off at 1,000 feet there. So by the controller telling the Brickyard pilots, hey, that was my fault, that was on me, those pilots then aren't stressed, because if the controller didn't say that, they would be replaying in their mind like, were we clear for takeoff? Did we mess that up? And they'd be stressed during that whole flight and be worried about it. So by the controller saying that, now they can relax, put that behind them, continue their flight, and be focused on what's ahead of them. You know, I know it would be easy to say, well, they should just put it behind them anyways. Okay, but the reality is if you mess something up and now you have to sit and stew over it for the next couple hours because you don't have tapes to listen to, you can't call or talk to anybody, you two just have to fly the plane. So by the controller doing that, it lets the pilots put that behind them so they can safely continue their flight. Now, if they had messed that up, they still have to safely continue the flight, but it is a nice thing that the controller did by saying, hey, I messed that up, that's on me, and obviously that was the case, right? He cleared them for takeoff, but by saying that, it lets the pilots relax and know, hey, we didn't mess this up, which is a nice thing to do. If you enjoyed this video, check out one of these two over here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.